Why don't you fill out your look for checklist?
Swore too much to recover
And we will go over some things that I need to improve on. And then we will spend some time practicing giving clear directions for our lessons tomorrow. And then someone will practice.
Just to clarify, I couldn't always hear their responses. Was that all directions, or were you actually
So up
getting
until where I started looking for clues, that was
Yeah.
directions. But like, what's the very first thing I do? Like, well, I won't even tell you. But I typically ask that question to like a lower level. Like, I always
The
ask them what to
objective.
No, to like identify what's the very first thing we do. I ask like my lowest student so that they are at least on the right track when they start. If that makes sense.
If you have to do all of these every time you do directions.
Do you have to do all of them? Hold on to that. No, I'll ask everyone. What do you think? Take about 1 more minute. Don't stress too much if you don't have the strengths opportunities for improvement. Alright, let's do glows first. Tell me how amazing I am. No, just kidding, but tell me some things that I did okay for checking directions on our look fors.
You delivered it in multiple forms. Like
Okay.
It was said orally, and it was also written down to them.
Great. And I also have it up on the board, which is, no, but that does help. Some of the kids you like see are looking up on the board and you're like, it's in front of you. You want to have multiple types of directions.
And directions in 2 places, did they have the directions on the sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
The students had to restate them.
Okay, so the students restated the directions.
You explain complicated words.
Okay.
They were specific, concrete, sequential, and observable.
Yep.
Modeled student actions.
Great. And so I do model it when we go over it.
Yeah, keyword go key.
Yep. It goes right there. That's the graphic organizer we use every morning. And they are specific and observable. All right. What are some things that could be opportunities for improvement? Maybe one thing that was missing that you think could add to that.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to like digress.
No.
But I think some struggle because like there was one point when like accurate, one of your students couldn't read it, and I struggled because like you obviously want to put everything in student appropriate language, but sometimes with like our objectives and like what our end task is, it's not something that's really as student friendly.
Yep.
So like
Where
does that fall?
So, does anyone want to respond before I?
I mean, I think you can always make it student friendly though. Like, I think it's harder to think of how you say like, you will finish a like literary analysis writing response. Like, but I think there are ways to write that student friendly. Like, I don't know.
So, I think, and we've talked about the word accurate before. Like we've made accurate predictions quite a few times, and so if I asked Demetria what accurate meant, she'd be like, right, correct. But she just has trouble decoding. She's reading on a level P, and so accurate, even though she like could use the word probably, she's not necessarily at that phonemic level, but she likes to read my objective every day. And if I don't call on her, I get quite the puffy face, so.
I used one of Ashley's worksheets one time in my class, and Ashley does a different way. It has a different way of giving directions. You use like bullet points for it. You'll do this, and you'll do that, and you'll do that. And I just like clump it together at the top, like directions, and it's like a paragraph of directions, rather than breaking it down. So I sometimes switch to Ashley's method of like the bullet point directions.
Yeah.
I think that's easy, like more student friendly.
Great. And Mo, do you want to ask your question to everyone that you asked me?
Do we have to do all of these every single time we
What do you guys think?
It depends. It depends, like you were saying, like if you have an established routine, then maybe you need to do it every once in a while, like ask some clarifying questions about it. But if it's like say you do a word of the day every day, like then maybe there are some things you do not need to
Yeah.
do every day.
I would also say if you're asking clarifying questions, asking a question to prevent possible misunderstandings, and restating, you don't necessarily, all three of those are checking for understanding with your directions essentially. You don't need to necessarily do all three. And I do think Ashley's right, like it depends on the context of what you're doing.
I also thought, I put down for strengths in my little box that you're like extremely positive, and that's one thing that I think like once I hit the end of the day, like my fourth period thinks I'm much meaner than my second period does. So like I thought that was a big strength of yours.
Great, thank you.
And smiling.
Pacing.
You're not supposed to do that, right?
Okay.
You kept them like momentum going even when they're like when she did struggle with accurate, which I have learned like that's where I get into trouble. If like it takes too long, then it just gives more time for other students to get distracted. So
Yeah.
that was one thing I noticed. Like
It was actually funny because they knew we were getting filmed, and so when the boy interrupted class and was like, "Miss Elwam," and I was like, "I'm in the middle of teaching," and he's like, "You're always in the middle of teaching." Like usually my kids would respond to that, but because they knew they were getting filmed, they were like. So you should film. These are like supposedly super cheap now because flip cameras like are out or whatever. They're old technology. They're apparently $40, and I mean I hate watching the videos of myself teaching, but it's so
It's really
interesting.
helpful.
Yeah. So without digressing too much, we are going to take a lesson for tomorrow or Thursday or Friday, and we're going to take 6 minutes to plan out how we're going to give clear directions. And so giving directions is one of the things that I still script as a teacher. Like I don't script necessarily my whole lessons, but that's one of the things that when I know we're moving into endocrine practice, I have that scripted out exactly what I'm going to say. So I don't read it. I'm not like, hey guys, hold on. Okay, now, but I've scripted it beforehand so that it's like that language, that verbiage is there, and so it's really important to be able to do that. So if you want to work with someone, I know you two are planning together, if you guys want to do that, and if you two are doing the similar things, we're going to take 5 minutes to plan it, and then I'm going to ask one person to volunteer. Does anyone want to volunteer right now to do it? Alright, maybe I'll draw out a Alright, can someone repeat the directions, what we're going to do right now, since we're talking about giving clear directions?
For 6 minutes, we're going to practice giving directions with a partner. We're going to go over how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and before you practice it, you want to script it. So why don't we take 3 minutes to script it, and then we'll get with a partner and practice? Sound cool? Okay. Ready, set, go.
So we'll come